Is this true? And if so, how did you discover them?
It's actually not true, sorry.
False information.
I'm curious to know where you read that. I had never, this is the wrong audience to say this to, but I'm just going to be honest, because why not? Oh, cool wings. So yeah, there's like an amazing pair of 4-foot angel wings, or some kind of angel. So I had never seen a horror movie or read a comic book at the point at which I auditioned for The Walking Dead. I was actually in Nigeria shooting a political movie about oil. Yeah, we're gonna have a booth at the next Comic Con, it's gonna be great. Totally kidding. And we had about 90 minutes of electricity a day in the hotel, and my agent sent me a script for something called The Walking Dead, and I couldn't download it. I was like, this really doesn't sound like my kind of a thing, because I get scared really easily. And they said, it's zombies. I said, I really don't think this is going to be my kind of thing. And then they said, Gail Ann Hurd, and they said, Frank Darabont. I said, wait, okay. Let me download it. And I couldn't. The electricity wouldn't work. So I figured by the time I got back to the States, the part would be taken, and it wasn't. And I read it, and I felt sick to my stomach. With just I had nightmares. I didn't sleep for the next 3 days. But I couldn't forget it, because it was this amazing story about a man who missed his wife and his son. And then Frank Darabont and I got in the room together, and that was pretty great.
So after you obviously landed the audition, did you then go and seek out the graphic novels, or did you avoid them entirely?
I did.
Because it really wasn't your...
No, I mean, I figured it was my due diligence, right, to show up prepared. So I went and I got issue 1, got home, read it, and went out and then got the first 9 volumes and spent the next 2 days not sleeping, having horrible nightmares. But I got kind of addicted to it, and I stopped. There's something that happens to Michonne in the prison with the governor. You guys know what I'm talking about, probably, with the kids in the audience, so I don't want to say it out loud. And I couldn't read it anymore. It hurt too much, so that's where I put him down.
Now, you said you were really disturbed by the script, so perhaps that got you halfway there. But as an actress, what did you do mentally to put yourself in a zombie apocalypse scenario? Like, was it a challenge to embrace the mindset of constant fear and danger and, constant alertness for your character?
No, the fear's all real. It is. You laugh. I cried. It was the first real sort of zombie interaction I had was in season 1 with the attack on the camp, right? Where the camp is attacked while Rick and the gang are out looking for Merle. And we shot that at night. And the zombie extras are all really incredible performers, and they thought it was really funny to sneak up behind me and go blah and watch what would happen. But it would shut the set down for 15 or 20 minutes at a time because I would be shaking and I couldn't think straight and I couldn't remember my lines. And so at a certain point the producers went to the extras and they're like, you guys really have to stop effing with her because she can't take it, psychologically. And where we were shooting, we were kind of up on a hill, and at a certain point, our producer, Denise Huth, turned to me, and she's like, you look uncomfortable. And I was like, I had to pee for 4 hours, but I'm too scared to go to the porta potties at the bottom of the hill. So John and Norman walked me to the porta potties and made fun of me the entire way back. And that fear never really went away. I had my last nightmare about 4 months after I finished season 3.
So that leads into my next question. Obviously, shooting it is very, very intense, and it keeps you in a very intense emotional state the entire time. What did you do at the end of your shooting day to kind of shed that and come back to, the Sarah you are?
Apart from drinking heavily. It's a great cast. It's an amazing group. I've never worked with a group of people with more heart and dedication. It's easy. If we'd all gotten together and decided to do a zombie show and kind of wink about it, I think it could have been really lame. But it started with Andy Lincoln, and we all showed up on set, and he'd had about a week working by himself, going crazy, growing a beard, screaming at things. And he came with this incredible level of commitment and of courage to play it as though it were completely honest. And that's hard to do, because if you fall on your face and you make an idiot of yourself, you know, sometimes you can want to hold back from that because people will laugh at you, and Andy never cared. He was like, we're going to do this as though it was absolutely real. And so everybody kind of followed suit. And it was the kind of job where you left at the end of the day and you were exhausted and you stank. You smelled like sweat and blood and bug juice and whatever had bitten you during the day, whether it was a tick or a snake or 50 million mosquitoes. But it was a good feeling, because even in the first season when we thought probably no one's going to watch this. Thanks, by the way. Really grateful for that. But even in the first season, you leave at the end of the day and you're like, wow, I'm working the way I've always wanted to work. I'm a part of something that I'm proud of. And that brings you up, not down.
So speaking of those emotional, kind of difficult moments, because The Walking Dead is absolutely full of them, which was the most challenging to shoot for you and the rest of the cast? What was the one that really tore your souls out?
Has everyone here seen season 3?
Yeah.
Okay. Because Norman and I did one of these at one point, and like 10 people in the audience lost their minds. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. So spoiler alert. My last scene was the one, before I came back looking like in a dress and makeup and stuff. It was way harder. I have to say that, the hardest thing was standing there in a clean white dress and not tearing it or throwing up on it or something. And like lipstick was super weird. But the scenes that were my sort of real last scenes in the show with Carl were absolutely the hardest. Because I just love that kid. And, we had this one day where the day Dale died in season 2, it was the first kind of big family loss, right? Because, there were those of us who were in the pilot, and we were all really, really close. We'd get together and have barbecues on the weekend and stuff. And I looked out in the field in the middle of the night as we were shooting this, and Chandler was just standing there alone. And I went, oh, he's just a kid. Because he was then. Now he's like a little man. But, he was like 10 or 11 at the time. And I just went up to him. I was like, how you doing, buddy? And he just kind of leaned on me. Just started shaking his head. And I said, well, it's okay. You've got me. You've got Andy. We're here for you. And he goes, yeah. And it really wasn't enough, because he knew we were losing John in the next episode. And then I found out I was leaving, and I thought, I kind of told this kid I'd be there for him. So someday his therapist will be able to blame me for all kinds of things. But leaving Chandler, this remarkable young man that I'd seen grow from a boy to one of the best actors I've worked with, that was incredibly hard. And he was a pro through the whole thing. He was a total champ. But we couldn't really look at each other for most of that day.
Now, you've already had the obligatory spoiler warning, so I'm not going to issue it again, even though I kind of just did. Your character, Laurie, dies in the comics. Now, was there ever any thought of perhaps giving her an alternate fate in the TV series, or was that always in the cards to follow through that way as well? Do you know?
Well, Darabont and I argued about it a lot. My position from the beginning was that you have to kill Laurie, because killing Laurie does something to Rick that you can't do another way. And Frank didn't agree with that. His mind, certainly wasn't made up, but for a long time he would sort of take this devil's advocate position of, well, there are these other ways that we could put stress on Rick and break him down. My response was always, sure, but then Laurie would be there to build him back up. Even though there were times where she wasn't particularly good at that in their marriage. But, I did feel pretty strongly that the series starts with him looking for his wife and his son. And you have to take his wife away in order for him to kind of go down that rabbit hole. you know, so when Glenn came on board, it was the first thing I said to him. There was talk about her making it longer, and, you know, at one point they had this idea that, like, Laurie would give birth in the woods alone in a snowstorm fighting off zombies. I was kind of like, yeah, or that could be us jumping the shark. I mean, I think the way she died made sense, and I think, you know, I hated to leave the show because I love the show, but you take a job on the show like The Walking Dead, and you go, well, my number's gonna come up. And I think the show loses all of its teeth if it feels like there are sacred characters that can never be killed. And when you lose people like Shane and you lose people like Laurie, what you tell the audience is every time someone's in danger, someone's really in danger. And I just think that's so important to do to the story. If Laurie made it 10 seasons, I would have been upset about it.
All right, I'm officially giving you guys your 2-minute warning, so you can start thinking about lining up with your questions right about now.
It's like a kindergarten classroom.
Yes, it is.
Hold hands, find your partner.
And I'm going
to pee, ask for a hall pass.
And I'm going to actually flip away from The Walking Dead for a second. I was looking at the